So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to decide between doing a job or starting a business. And this is something that I personally struggled with at the beginning, and I was not able to come to terms with the fact and the work that would be required to do a business. And I was always seduced by the idea of working for my brother. And my brother already had made a couple of $1 million, and he was moving towards making much more money. And I had this choice that I could support him in a good position, okay, not doing like odd jobs, but like really good position, and support him to build a business that he already has built, and grow that and make a little bit money for myself, right? And I had a potential to make a couple of $1 million potentially, okay, and at the beginning, $10,000-$20,000 a month. And it was something really tempting, and I saw many of my friends that were also working for him, they decided to take that path. And for me, I was building my company, and the results were coming very slowly. I had found a business model, everything was going well, and I had experimented with several business models, and this one was working, but I was yet to see financial results. I could see them, I could feel them, but there were times when I doubted my decision because it was just so difficult to keep going and to stay on the track and stay focused. So the idea of and the seduction that this job had, and they were having a lot of fun, they were making all this money, and they could buy all these things because they had good cash flow, and I was just still in the building phase, and I would just think to myself, is this even worth it? Like, is it even worth pursuing this? And it took some time for me to come to terms with that, and I want to offer you this framework, because if you haven't really decided whether you want to continue to do a job and live life in a secure manner or start a company, if you haven't decided it, you are going to be indecisive and unhappy, all right? And you will not have power because you have not yet taken a position. Okay, you are kind of in a limbo. You are not able to do your job properly, and you're not able to start a business properly. All right. So we want to make sure that you take a decision and pick a side, and that would be a strategy for your life, right? So, and these are just strategies, having a job or starting a business simply is a strategy towards living the good life, right? And whichever makes sense for you, from an overall perspective, you should do that. So here are some of the factors, and I want to offer you the whole decision-making framework so that you can take the decision. All right, so let's get right into it. If you don't know who I am, just a quick introduction. I'm the founder of a healthcare investment company, and in the last 3 years, I've negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, and I have gotten billion-dollar CEOs to be on my team as business partners. Okay, and so that's a brief introduction, and so let's get right into it about job versus a business. The number one factor that will help you decide and take a decision is going to be your goals. Okay, if you don't know your goals, and if you have not written down your goals, you cannot really have clarity as to which strategy is going to fulfill that goal. And I'm not talking about a short-term goal where you want to increase your income by 20%, 30%, 50%, even 100%. I'm talking about your overall life. How do you want to live your life? What kind of lifestyle you want to have? What kind of people you want to be associated with? What kind of cars you want to drive? What kind of homes you want to have? What kind of locations and neighborhoods you want to live in? What kind of beautiful women you want to date? And how much fame do you want? How much money do you want? And you should write down numbers, financial numbers around all of these things, and then you will have a pretty good idea as to what you need in terms of financial resources to make all of these dreams come true. So that's step number one, to write down your goals. If you have not done that, the subsequent steps will not make sense and you will be confused as to how to take a position. So write those goals down, and don't hold back when you write them down. Just write it down. Whatever comes up is really naturally innate for you. It's instinctive for you, and you should go with what you feel in your gut. All right. So whatever comes up, let it come out. Don't judge yourself. No need to share it with anybody right now. Just write it down. Okay. Once you write it down, you have to see, based on your goals, which strategy makes sense. Okay. If you want to live just a happy and simple life, you want to eat good food, you want to go to nice places, you want to have good friends, and you want to have a decent time at your work and not have too much of stress, and have a stable marriage, stable life, like a regular set routine, then, and you want to live maybe at some point on the outskirts, retire at 50, and just live a nice life, have a lot of time with your family, and just live a good life, then entrepreneurship is not for you. Okay, starting a business is not for you. You're way better off doing a job, because you will not be happy doing that. And especially if you don't mind working for someone else, definitely go and get yourself a job, and keep climbing and keep finding better jobs that pay you high income, keep developing your skills, and you can take that pathway. I have a friend actually who has no problem at all working for someone else. No problem. He's very happy. He just wants to get his money, get some toys, enjoy himself, buy a car, date a nice girl, and that's it. That's all he wants. Myself, on the other hand, I want to become a billionaire. I want to be in deals with other billionaires. I want to be, part of the top private clubs. I want to get a private jet. I want to drive supercars. I want to date many women, many beautiful women. I want to travel the whole world, live in penthouses, and own massive estates, and so that my next many generations do not have to work. That's just my goal, okay, personally. So the moment I wrote down this goal, suddenly the option to have a job disappeared. And the only option that I had was to start a business. But there was a big dilemma. First of all, it takes a lot of energy to build a business. And I did not have a business plan. I did not have a business idea. And I started to look online as to, which pathway to pursue. By the way, if you are someone who is resonating with the job idea, you should stop this video and do something else, because I'm now going to talk about business and how to create a company from scratch. Okay. So first thing, when you have decided, when you're leaning towards starting a company and building a business, you want to assess the costs involved. Okay. Then you really have to have a serious conversation with yourself. What are the costs involved? And costs are not just financial costs, but personally, what you will have to give up. Okay, you may not be watching a lot of movies or TV shows. You may not be hanging out with your friends, even your best friend. You may have to change your city or country. I had to change my whole country and go to another city which had better opportunities. You may have to leave your girlfriend, okay, that you have in that city when you leave. You may not spend a lot of time with your family. Your parents might be getting older and they gave everything to make you grow up and flourish. And now they're getting old and you will have to leave them also at some point to build your business. You will be working 10, 12 hours. Your mental and emotional health can also suffer because of that. You may have to sacrifice a short period of time where your health may not be perfect. You can always get back your health. You can always get it back. I mean, not after it's gone too bad, but I'm talking about a year, if you did not focus, after a year you can get it back. So and I value health quite a lot, by the way. You can see I'm not fat. All right, so now so you need to assess the costs involved, and then financial costs associated with it. So you have to assess all those costs. Then you gotta assess the financial risk associated with business, because you will need a business model that works, that has not just worked for one person but has worked for a lot of people, right? You want a system that's going to reliably deliver you the result that you want. And there are many systems and many business models that have created wealth for people that have, become successful, right? Not all business have to be innovation based, like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. Those are very specific scenarios where it was a one-off company that became massively successful, and it was an innovation based business, including Facebook, Instagram, etc. But when you talk about systems, I'm talking about things like real estate, things like buying businesses, things like setting up an online company, or offering services and products. These types of businesses have been streamlined. These types of businesses, the processes and systems necessary to make them a success have been figured out. It's not something that you cannot find out. You can find out, and there are people who teach it, including myself. You have got Robert Kiyosaki, Manny Koshman, Grant Cardone. There are many people who are teaching this stuff, okay? And it's the systems are out there, and all you have to do is get the system and execute it. And these systems have worked for many people. So you have to understand that systems have to work for a lot of people, and you just take something that works, you model it, and you just take action on that. So there are fundamentally two types of businesses. In one, you will be creating revenue, and revenue is created by sales and marketing. So whenever you're starting a business, the first problem you're going to have is customers, right? Nobody wants to buy my product or service. I need customers, I need traffic. And to get traffic, you need sales and marketing skills. You need to understand what your clients want, what your customers want. So it's all of that's around marketing and sales. And with this strategy of creating revenue, you can make a couple of $1 million if you work really, really hard, if you're focused. To make a couple of $1 million doing this is not a big deal. Okay, you can do it. Those systems are available, and it can be very profitable. And actually, these types of companies grow very well just by sales. So no debt required, just sales. You can have a bunch of revenue, and out of that revenue, you will have a whole bunch of profit and all of that cash, and you get to enjoy your life as you're building the business. Okay, so this is known as a cash flow based business, where you are making a lot of healthy cash flow, right? And a lot of online marketers that you see have this use this business model. The other business model is more of an appreciation business. Things like real estate, things like mergers and acquisitions. The big money is going to be made in these the appreciation business. But the drawback is, in the founding years, your cash flow is going to be a little bit tight. Not to say you're not going to be paying your bills. You will be paying your bills handsomely. I mean, you will be making decent money to live well. But most of the assets you acquire, the money they are producing, they will be going towards paying the debt service, because you will be acquiring these assets using banks' money. When you use banks' money and you're doing these big deals, you will have some room to pay yourself a salary, but most of the profits will be towards paying the bank for a couple of years, and then you will have some free cash flow. All right, and then the big money is going to be made when you combine several of these assets and you sell it at a much higher price. So it takes quite a few years to build wealth, but when the money comes, it's going to be big money, right? So these are the two fundamental types of business: creating revenue which will have you, which will put cash flow in your pocket. Again, it can be very high risk to create revenue from scratch. Not to say you can't do it, you can do it in an online business, for example, but it's still to make 10-20 million dollars, that's a little bit challenging. If you want to build wealth, then you have got mergers and acquisitions, real estate. These are the types of business models. Again, you're not the first individual to do this. It has been done by so many people. They're all over the place. So many people have done it. I have done mergers and acquisitions and real estate, right? So you're not trying to get into something that doesn't work, or you're not trying to get into something that's new or trendy, like AI, for example. Everybody's talking about it. It's not these types of businesses. It's old school. It's been there for centuries, right? And you can build a business in that. Now, I personally have decided that I want to go with mergers and acquisitions for my wealth building, and I have decided to go with consulting as a cash flow, and also to fulfill my goal of being known, being famous, and reaching a lot of people and leaving a legacy, right? And I want to start early in that process so that by the end of my life, I have left a body of work that has impacted a lot of people. It's something that's important to me, right? So you have those two options when it comes to starting a business. There are other businesses that you can do apart from the online business, like starting a restaurant, which I don't recommend, or any other businesses that require brick and mortar. But I would highly recommend, if you want to go towards creating revenue, online is the best option. If you want to talk about acquiring cash flow producing assets, I would recommend mergers and acquisitions. If you really want to, create wealth, wealth that can last several lifetimes or a lifetime, like big money, right? That is mergers and acquisitions, real estate. And sometimes there are combination of the two also. For example, Donald Trump did a lot of mergers and acquisitions in real estate. So he was acquiring hotels which had casinos, which provides a lot of cash flow, and he was also developing projects and in real estate development. So there are people who have done a mix of both, a combo, and you can decide what you want to do. So if you want to start a business, two ways: create revenue from sales and marketing, or buy revenue using debt and combine several assets together and sell it at a very high price, and you make a whole bunch of money for yourself and for your team involved. So if you want to play that game, reach out to me and we will see how we can work together. I'll talk to you soon.